There is something a little fishy and weird about the rebel plan to steal imperial credits. In the recent few Andor episodes, we are led to believe that the rebel mission on Aldhani is simple: to infiltrate the dam and steal the imperial wages of an entire sector. Undoubtedly, this would cause plenty of morale issues among imperial troops and slow down imperial activity. Not to mention, it would be a massive embarrassment for the Empire that a few dissenting individuals could pull off such a heist underneath their noses. At present, the plan seems rather simple and straightforward, but there are a few hints and clues given throughout the episode that suggest all is not what it seems. The show has given us bits of information to clue us in on what might be happening, so let's try and piece it together to see what we have so far. And I really think that there are two parts to what the rebels are planning. The first is directly related to Aldhani, and the second is related to the bigger rebel plan at play. The first part and clue that tells us that there is more than meets the eye is when Andor asks Vel what her and Cinta's role will be with regards to the heist, to which she responds with,
"What are they doing?"
Never mind about them. We got enough to worry about.
It's a rather dismissive answer that clearly reflects Vel's distrust for Cassian, but it also means that whatever her part of the operation is just might be, as if not, more important than what Cassian has been tasked to do. Now, it's anyone's guess as to what Vel might be up to, but in a later scene as the rebels dismantle their camp and make their way to the dam, we get a brief look at Skeen and Tamarin, who lift up a disguised cover to pull out a box. It's a very brief blink and you miss it moment in the show, but it puts a question on why they were hiding it in the first place. At first I thought it was simply a crate full of weapons kept hidden away in order not to blow their cover, but as we see in earlier shots, the rebels aren't exactly afraid to display their weapons walking around. So it doesn't seem like this crate that was important enough to be kept hidden away would just carry more weapons. To add to the mystery of this entire heist is the conversation Lieutenant Gorn has with the Corporal. In this particular scene, the Corporal expresses his disdain for the Aldhani people.
Still enough to smell him, right?
But he then goes on to ask the lieutenant if he can imagine thousands of Aldhanis gathering for a big event, to which the lieutenant replies that he can almost in a prophetic manner.
Can you imagine this place with a couple of thousand of them?
Yes.
Speculating from his tone of voice, it sounds almost as if that unlike the prior years, thousands of Aldhanis will be gathered for the event or for some other purpose. So what might be the case is that the Aldhani heist job isn't just there to steal a few credits from the Empire. Instead, it may be a part of a bigger operation to use the moment to incite the Aldhanis into open rebellion. Not only does the event of the Eye distract the Empire from the heist, it's also a moment where lots of Aldhanis will gather to witness the moment. It really is the perfect opportunity to make a big demonstration that the Empire isn't as invincible as they think they are, and to encourage the Aldhanis to rise up for themselves. So what if Vel and Cinta's mission is to bring attention to the event? What if they are in the background plotting to get more attention from the locals? So whatever is in the crate is probably pretty big and explosive, enough to stir local interest. It has also been suggested that Cinta is an Aldhani, as she does teach Cassian how to speak the language, so she seems rather well suited for the role. So I expect that there will be quite a lot of firework displays when the operation begins, as Luthen states that once this operation is over, it could be the beginning of something bigger.
Or would it just be starting?
But it also seems as though the Aldhani mission is a small piece in the overall plan. The plot thickens when the show gives us the perspectives of ISB agent Deidre, who along with her aide are trying to connect the dots between separate incidents.
Kessel, Fondor, targeting consoles from Jakku, proton warheads from Base K, the Steerguard star path.
Deidre's aide goes on to mention a few planets, and while we really have no clue what went down on some of these planets, we might have a few ideas on what did occur in others. The first one that we have some notion of what went down is Kessel. Keep in mind that the show is set in 5 BBY, which also happens to coincide with the events that take place in the Rebels show. Around this time, the crew of the Ghost would conduct a rescue operation on Kessel to break out a group of captured Wookiees. But the group of Wookiees that the rebels rescued were no ordinary group of enslaved Wookiees. Kanan reveals that these are Wookiee soldiers who once fought for the Galactic Republic. In other words, by rescuing the Wookiees, the rebellion may have been able to recruit seasoned soldiers to their cause. On top of that, the mission on Kessel was a big moment for the rebellion, with Kanan finally revealing himself to be a Jedi, so it's no surprise that this caught the attention of someone like Dedra. The aide then goes on to list that the rebels have stolen targeting consoles from Jakku. Now, targeting consoles likely refer to the ones used in the X-Wings which rebel pilots used to aim with, and proton warheads from Base K. Proton warheads were the explosive part of a proton torpedo, the most common torpedo used by the Rebel Alliance and what Luke used to blow up the Death Star. Then there is the Starpath unit from Steerguard, and as we have learned, the Starpath had the capability to basically track the Imperial presence within a given location while being untraceable. Now, all this could be chalked down to the general buildup of the Rebel Alliance. It should be noted that at this point, the Rebels were far from the coordinated alliance we see in Rogue One or later in A New Hope. At this point in time, they were really just individual rebel cells with very little contact with each other and were mostly operating in their local sectors. What the establishment of the Alliance basically did was to bring all these rebel cells together and act as one entity. So all this separate activity across the galaxy could just be viewed as the rebel cells acting on their own accord to acquire resources for their own efforts. However, Dedra and her assistant seem to think that there is a bigger plot at play.
If I was them, this is how I'd do it.
It's too random to be random.
So what if we were to assume that this is indeed true, and that all these efforts are part of a bigger coordinated effort? Then what exactly is it for? What is the objective behind acquiring all these components? What do rescued Wookiee soldiers, targeting consoles from Jakku, proton warheads, a Starpath unit, and soon-to-be stolen funds all have in common? To me, it seems like the rebels are preparing a major strike, acquiring the necessary technology, expertise, and funds to coordinate a strategic strike against the Empire. Now, all of these may not be strictly connected, and I could be grasping at straws here. If that is indeed the case, then you can default back to the original explanation that all this is just a general buildup of the Alliance. However, as the show has demonstrated so far, it seems like it's charting a course where everything is connected. So if these incidents are indeed connected as Dedra mentions, then what is the rebel objective? A clue to this might have been given in the trailer where Cassian appears to be leading a massive prison break. Judging by the way the show has been structured so far, with roughly 3 to 4 episode arcs, this might be a final climactic moment of the show. The rebels preparing themselves with all these equipment and expertise to spring a massive prison break which would undoubtedly add more members to their cause. And keep in mind that throughout the past few episodes, we keep hearing that Cassian was once in prison. First in his interaction with Luthen and later with Skeen, so who better than to lead this prison break mission? I think it's a very strong possibility that all these dots will be connected at some point during the show, and that there is something larger that the rebels are planning, although I might be wrong on what the intentions are. But hey, this is just my theory on the direction of the show, so let me know what you think in the comments down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon for more notifications. I am the Lost Acolyte,
and I have spoken.